Welcome to the vCom Solutions Partner Training Series. We're excited to have you here as we dive into how you can unlock new revenue opportunities by solving key business technology challenges for your customers. In this training series, I'll take you through our 3 core products and show how they simplify the biggest pain points businesses face by saving time, reducing costs, and maximizing visibility to drive better business outcomes for both you and your customers. By the end of this series, you'll have a clear understanding of how you can use our Platform vManager to drive real value while strengthening your role as a trusted advisor. Let's get started. Today, we're going to talk about all things expense management, but real quick, we're going to take a zoom out and talk about lifecycle management. And what exactly does that mean when you hear the vCom team or see the vCom products of network and mobile lifecycle management? And lifecycle management to us means the following: to manage the 9 phases, aka problems, aka jobs, functions, responsibilities, whatever you want to call them, of recurring IT spend. And we truly believe if you're not addressing all 9 of these, then you're not managing your IT assets effectively. And so this wheel on the right is our life cycle of an IT asset, hence why we call it lifecycle management. We've already talked about planning and procurement and ops, and today again we're diving into expense, so covering invoices, accounting, and analytics. Ultimately, the goals and the values that we are providing customers and partners are these 3 key things. So saving you time, and there is a ton of time to be saved when it comes to expense management, giving you information and visibility so that you can make better business decisions based on data, and saving you money, something that is always top of mind for IT and finance leadership. And we drive that not only through hard cost, but also soft cost savings. What exactly does expense management with vCom look like? So ultimately, to simplify and streamline how you pay, allocate, and analyze your IT expenses. So when it comes to invoice management, that looks like giving you an invoice database, aka a centralized repository, an invoice language standardization. So instead of trying to decode what these funny marketing terms from vendors mean on invoices, we're just going to call it what it is and standardize that for you. Automated invoice approval workflows. And if you're talking about mobile lifecycle management, we also have variance flagging and resolution. When it comes to accounting, managed pay with payment tracking capabilities to make sure those invoices are getting paid on time, automated general ledger coding and cost center allocations, and batched accounts payable posting files. When it comes to analytics, again, those data-driven visibility insights, 100 plus reports and charts, community intelligence, utilization reporting, as well as mobile cost optimization if you're talking about mobile lifecycle management. What exactly are the challenges that go along with invoice and accounting? For those of you who haven't spent a ton of time talking to finance contacts and teams, they're honestly very similar to what IT teams are dealing with. It's just kind of a different baseball park, so to speak. So there's still those bottlenecks and knowledge gaps. There is a huge difficulty with juggling multiple vendor invoices, making sure we've captured all the invoices. They're not going to random people's inboxes who are no longer here. You get the idea. Complex invoice approval workflows is definitely an issue. Manual allocation of charges and AP systems, even for some of the most advanced or enterprise customers that vCom has worked with, we still see a lot of manual work being done for AP. Difficulty tracking and remitting timely payments. Similar to IT, if you don't have sight on all your assets, for finance, if you don't have sight for all your invoices, then you definitely are at risk for not getting payments made on time, which can lead to crazy finance charges or even worse, services being taken down. Lack of clarity on invoice charges and services, as we talked about, they definitely don't make it easy to understand what you're paying for in invoices. Manual tracking of assets from invoices, and lack of data visibility and analytics. So lots of muddy waters here, ultimately leading to the pain points of excess time spent on invoice and payment management, inability to identify cost optimization opportunities, generally because most teams are just drowning in trying to get the work done to get those invoices paid on time, and difficulty providing strategic insights for long-term growth. So without further ado, as always, let's hop into vManager so I can show you what expense management looks like with vCom. Welcome back to vManager. So let's hop straight into expense. So the first module here you see is invoices, and under that we have quite a few menus, but we're mainly going to focus here on invoices. So something to note too is when it comes to working with expense management with vCom, you don't have to start from procurement. Even before a customer has procured any services with vCom, they can start expense first by uploading their retail invoices. So their existing invoices that they are receiving from vendors today, they can go ahead and send us invoice copies, and with some permissions and signatures for permissions, we can go ahead and start pulling those on their behalf into vManager. So ultimately off the bat, even before we started working with IT, we can work with finance to make their lives easier and to give them a centralized place to access all their invoices, which tends to be a major and big pain point, as we talked about, for accounting and invoice teams. From a partner perspective or an advisor perspective, this gives you the visibility into their current spend. So you can coordinate with IT and say, all right, I see you have these invoices and these types of service charges on here. What should we be talking about? What's most important for you to address at this time? Now that we have a clear, holistic picture, let's attack some of this spend. So it really becomes visibility for you to start creating potential opportunities as well. So once all of those invoices are captured and loaded in the tool, all they have to do is log into vManager and see them here in this list. And it will show all the relevant pieces of information, such as those invoice dates, the due dates for payments, the accounts and vendors, the invoice numbers. It even flags if balance due looks a little bit different from current charges. So saying, hey, be aware, maybe there's some late fees going on here if this is double the last amount. And then, of course, as mentioned, we have the ability to do invoice approval workflows, so they'll be able to see status here. And there are tons and tons of columns of information here, including where you can export the invoice PDF and see all of the funds amount and received dates and transactions associated to managed pay, as managed pay is something that can be layered on to expense management with vCom in order to make sure that customers are getting their invoices paid on time. So that's an additional add-on that we have to offer for customers who are struggling with that. And for example, we have a customer who started with us expense first, and they had 500 invoices a month that they were trying to manage. And as you can imagine, it was a nightmare and it was a mess. And there was lots of finance charges due to late fees and lots of scrambling around each month to make sure they were even just seeing and getting all of those invoices on their desk. And after uploading everything in vCom and after a year of working on this project and work that vCom team put into support and help them evaluate invoices as they were being loaded, we ultimately got this down to 150 invoices. So starting from 500 to 150 in less than a year, really, it didn't even take a full year. That's pretty incredible. So just a quick tidbit there on the power of our expense first offering. But ultimately, what you want to get to is having your invoices in here, whether that's through procured services, landing on Quantum Shift invoices, or anything being uploaded from brokerage or retail invoices. And I can click into one of these to show you what it looks like, particularly with Quantum Shift, which is by far the most robust in terms of giving you clarity and information, which is that wholesale buying channel that we talked about when we were in the planning and procurement session. So this is what one of those invoices look like. And one of the major benefits of Quantum Shift is having an invoice that is multiple vendors on a single invoice. So instead of receiving an individual invoice for each vendor you've purchased through Quantum Shift, you actually just get one invoice with all of them on there. And then we'll give you the summary breakdowns by those different vendors, but also by services and by location, which tends to be extremely invaluable for a lot of customers. They love to see charges by location. So Quantum Shift is amazing for that. But of course, there's not just Quantum Shift invoices in here. There's also the retail ones and brokerage ones as well. So I can click into one of those as an example so you can see how it maybe looks slightly a bit different, but still uploaded with those normalizations, right? So we're still saying, hey, this is what it is that you're paying for, and here's how much you're paying for it. And we'll give you a breakdown by charges by type. And if the invoice does have inventory on it, we will show you that information here as well. Obviously, we're at the mercy of the carrier a little bit more when it comes to brokerage and retail invoices, simply because if the invoice doesn't have that information, we won't be able to upload it. But you get the idea. At least there's clarity on the types of charges on that invoice and what you're paying for on it. And once invoices are loaded, as I mentioned, you can have vCom support you with creating AP posting files. And that really starts with working with our team of expense experts. And they are going to understand and ask questions and drive the conversation around, okay, what are your cost center codes, your GL codes? If you don't know what that means, I promise you finance teams do, as does our expense team. How do they allocate to those codes? What does the file type or output look like that you need in order to, import that into your accounting program? At the end of the day, a lot of finance teams spend a lot of time doing manual allocations. Again, no matter how large or sophisticated the customer, we see this all the time with manual processes in the AP posting file allocation process. And this automates all of it, because once we have an understanding of what their codes are, we go ahead and upload those into the tool. And once we understand what their file looks like, the whole goal is to be able to provide them this page filled out right here, like you're seeing, where they can just come here and download the report of whatever it is they need. And it's custom to what they need. So they can just come into vManager, click on download, and the only manual work they have to do is download the file and then upload that file into their AP posting system. So no more manual allocations. We're going to automate that entire process and provide you exactly what you need to be able to do that and work with your accounting software. And once we are helping you with those functions, we can also help you with managed pay. So this goes back to getting invoices paid on time. As you can imagine, with that customer who had 500 invoices, as an example, getting things paid on time was definitely very difficult. And they were the genesis of getting this tool together and creating this tool for customers. We definitely take customer feedback very, very seriously, and some of our best inventions in vManager have come from it. And this basically says, all right, we are going to manage your payments for you. We need your permission to pull a funds request. Here are all of the invoices that fall into that dollar amount that we are requesting. And then we're going to give you the visibility in the tool to be able to manage it, change requests if you need to, but also to see the status of it. So if it's been approved, when the funds were received, when we made the vendor payments, confirmation codes for all of that good information and details. So full transparency and visibility, and the process is done in the tool and automated through the tool. And you don't have to call in to see the status of that. You can always go and find that here and make edits to your managed pay setup as well. So let's wrap up here with analytics. And as I mentioned, there are over 100 different charts and reports, and there are many, many menus here. So we're not going to go through all of these, but just hit on a couple of highlights. So charts here, the pre-populated reports that vCom has made on your behalf, and organize them into chart groups that suggest, hey, these might be helpful for you based on customer trends, on what they're asking for and what is often asked for in the industry. But you can also create your own custom chart group as well. So you can say, hey, I'm finding these to be helpful day to day. Let me go ahead and add them to this chart group, and then I can make that chart group my default. Also want to show you here the mobile savings dashboard, which is one of our newer chart groups. And this is a reflection of when you utilize our mobile team to do optimizations for you on your behalf or make optimization suggestions and recommendations. When you implement them, this chart group will actually show you the savings amount outcome of utilizing those recommendations. And mobile lifecycle management does have an optimization and utilization add-on to that as well from a product offering perspective. So if you have any questions on that, go ahead and talk to your rep and they can answer that more deep dive for you. And we also reflect that and provide full visibility and analytics in our tool. If you're someone who also wants to work with the raw data yourself though, and you're saying, great, I love that you gave me chart suggestions, but I really want to add this column or X, Y, and Z piece of information, we also have ad hoc reporting. And this is where you can create your own custom reports in any of those categories and say, hey, I want to slice and dice the details myself. It takes a few minutes to sort and filter and organize anything out of these columns, because as you can see, we give a lot of details of information, and they don't even apply to all, right? Since we are encompassing all technologies and asset types, it's some for internet and some for network and some for mobile, so on and so forth. But you have the option to remove anything here that you don't want to see. You can sort and filter it. And then once you save this report, it lives here and is existing in vManager for you. You can share it as an email attachment with others. You can create it under someone else's login. So there's lots of sharing options once you've taken the time to customize your report here. And I know there's a lot to cover, it's hard to pick, but let's just end on vAnalyzer, which is a 13-month spend trend report. So we talked about the value of getting invoices in our tool, but the other value of that and of us standardizing the naming conventions is that we can do things like create vAnalyzer, which is bucketizing all of that spend, all of the invoice charges loaded into our tool by those different categories, and then saying, here's a 13-month snapshot of it. So for example, if you had some major fluctuations in your spend month over month, you could say, hey, let's dive into that specific group. And then I can see maybe where these fluctuations happened in time associated to what different types of charges, and then even down to the circuit types, or I should say the service types, because it's not just for network. It's for all technologies loaded, and understand, oh, maybe I'm reminded now that, I had that fluctuation in August because we added 3 new circuits for DIA, or maybe we disconnected 2 in October, and that's why things went down. So you get the idea of how this can provide value by just showing you a 13-month spend trend and maybe triggering some activity that happened in the past. And from an IT and finance perspective, this is one of the crowd favorites and something that would take a ton of manual hours to create on your own outside of vManager, and we're just doing that automatically for you in our tool. And if you have Quantum Shift with us as well, you can even click down to the last level where you can see it associated to assets. So that next level of information, but at a bare minimum, it's still super valuable to see at least that spend trend by the product groupings there. All right, let's conclude with expense management benefits. So of all of those things we talked about here, we have centralized expense management for greater control. You can literally see everything across every stage and the data associated to it. Automated invoice processing to save time. You can see the many different ways in which we automate oftentimes manual processes for finance and accounting teams. Seamless vendor payment execution if you're utilizing our managed pay product. Real-time data for smarter decision making. So much data. You can utilize the stuff we've auto-generated or even create your own custom reports. Actionable spend analytics for cost optimization, especially when you're talking about mobile. I mentioned we have the optimization and utilization product add-on for mobile lifecycle management, and you can see that visibility in our tool vManager. And comprehensive inventory tracking and reconciliation. Ultimately, we are giving you visibility to identify potential opportunities as an advisor to your customers, expert support teams for finance and accounting functionalities. So again, not just experts in technology, but experts in these processes, and streamlined operations for ultimate efficiency. A lot of power in utilizing expense management or expense first with your customers. That wraps up the expense management session of the partner training series and the last video in the partner training series. I hope you found all of these helpful in understanding how our solutions help you simplify IT management for your customers while creating new revenue opportunities for your business. If you have any questions or need additional support, don't hesitate to reach out to our VP of Customer Success, Jessica Van Vorst. Her email is here on the screen. Or you can find additional resources on our website, vcomsolutions.com, and don't forget to check us out on LinkedIn. Thank you for joining us. Bye.